One time I got bit by a dog. Interestingly enough, I was in Newark with my companion Elder Barney, and we were knocking some potentials doors. We went to this one potential, and we heard a dog barking inside, which is normal. There's lots of people have dogs, but right as so I was standing there. Here's the door, and here's him, and I was standing off to the side. It was cold, so we were both wearing like our coats. Mine was a trench coat because that's what they tell you to take. Advice: take a coat that's also not a trench coat because you don't want to wear a trench coat just because it's a little cool outside, because then you look kind of weird. People think you're in the FBI a lot. That happens so much. People think you're a policeman. But I digress. So we're sitting at this door and we knock, and like right as the door opens, this dog, and it's not an overly huge dog, but it just comes charging at me and it just like bites my leg. And you always tell yourself, like you're always imagining in your head, like if this happened, I would be so cool. I'd punch the dog in the nose. Like this is what I would do. But instead, like I was just like, and I just kept trying to shake it off. And my companion was just sitting there, just standing, just like looking at it. I was just like, later on I got mad at him for not doing anything, but both of us were just kind of in shock. And this dog was just like tearing at my pants, just like, I don't even know why it attacked me because I didn't do anything, until the dog owner like came out and full on tackled the dog and like grabbed it and put it in a headlock and put it back in the house. So that was kind of scary. You walk past drug deals all the time. You walk past knife fights. You walk past stuff going on, and really the only thing you can do is just keep walking so that they don't get you too. One time my trainer and I, the way that you found out that transfers happened in our mission, it's different with different missions, but with ours was, the zone leaders would send a text. No, the assistants would send a text to the zone leaders telling them who was training and who was getting transferred out in their zone. So when I was a zone leader with my companion, I'd been a zone leader for 3 transfers, and usually it's 4. So I'd been a zone leader for 3, and President had released me as a zone leader. So we knew that I was getting transferred. And the transfer text gets there that night, and I was like, well, everybody expects me to stay. So we took my name and we deleted it off the transfer text, and we sent it back out to the mission. And something that happens a lot is, it's called transfer gossip. I never really took part in it because I think it's silly and it's a waste of time. But the P-Day after the day that you get your transfer text, usually a lot of missionaries will be like, send me your transfer text, and a lot of them will try to predict who's going where, and it's like, oh, no way, who got called as a trainer, who got called zone leader, and they try to like figure out and predict everything that's going on. And so it was super funny because my companion and I were the only missionaries in the mission besides the assistants who knew that I was getting transferred. And the whole other mission got this other transfer text that we'd sent out to the zone, and then the zone sent it out throughout the mission, and they didn't know that I was getting transferred. So that was super funny. And like, it was funny because we got to transfer conference, and he's president saying who's going where, and then he says, Elder Torres is going to Jersey City with Elder Flores. Get doubled in. And I just stood up, and everyone just kind of looked at me and were like, what? He's getting transferred? What? And then afterwards, everyone in my zone just came and gave me grief. They're like, no, you're leaving us and you didn't tell us. That's messed up. And one time my trainer and I, somehow we got the number to an elevator so we could call the elevator. And we had to take this elevator in Dover to do our laundry. And so there was another set of missionaries that were also in the same apartment complex, and they had to use the elevator to do their laundry as well. And one time on P-Day, we go out to do the laundry, and the other missionaries are in the elevator. And there's only 2 washing machines per floor, so they had to go to the next floor. And right as we're leaving, we touch the little alarm button. Not the one that actually calls the firefighters, but the one that just goes, woo, woo, woo. We touched it, and then we leave, and we close the doors. And then we walked into the laundry room, and we called the elevator, and we pretended to be the fire department. They got so scared. They're just like, what are you doing? You can't be fooling around with that stuff. Like, we almost dispatched somebody to come see what was wrong. And they were like so nervous. They were like, I'm so sorry, officer. And then like we went back to our apartment because we were gonna I think we were going to have lunch before we left to do shopping, and they like come to our apartment. They're like, you can't guess what just happened to us. And they were so stressed out. We just played it off. We're like, oh my goodness. And then they laughed, and we just busted up laughing again. And then later on they found out, but it was really funny. The most successful way of working is through the members. I mean, I've seen it so many times where, you have a great golden investigator that wants the gospel, but if the members aren't involved, it takes them either a really long time, and sometimes it can take them so long that they get discouraged and fall by the wayside. Whereas, I'll give a specific example. In my last area, we found this family. I got doubled into my last area, and so neither I nor my companion really knew what was going on because we were both new to the area. And we got there and we were just kind of going through some of our investigator pool and our less actives. And when we found this less active, who was having a really hard time because of his family situation. And obviously I won't disclose it, but his situation was really, really hard. And he needed a lot of help. He needed the gospel. And he knew that. He knew that he needed the gospel, but his situation was just keeping him from doing a lot of things. And he had a son that hadn't been baptized, so he was less active, and his son hadn't been baptized. And he just had, not because of anything he'd done, it wasn't like he'd sinned the gospel away or anything like that, but he just had a really rough home and family situation, and we kept trying to get him to church, and it just wasn't happening, because as determined as he was, and as much as he loved the gospel and as much as he loved the Lord, it was really, really hard for him. And so we would call people to try to get him a ride to church, and it wouldn't happen. And we would call people, and it wouldn't happen. And this went on for like 2 months almost, until one time we had this member that we had a really good relationship with. And so we kind of just asked her for some advice. We kind of were like, okay, so we're having a really hard time getting a ride for this person to go to church. And also this person had a person in his family who had some mental disability, I think, and she specialized in it, so it was great. She's like, okay, well, I'll go with you, and I actually know this other member who would love to come visit this family with you. And from the second they stepped foot in that house, the whole situation changed. We took a member of the bishopric with us, and she was in the primary stake primary, and it just changed their life around. Because obviously this member of the bishopric has a lot of pull on the ward that maybe we didn't have. So the next ward council, we show up, the missionaries, we expecting the same thing as usual, and they said, you know what, all of the auxiliaries can tell us about their issues, and just remember that the bishop has counselors and a secretary that are always there to listen. Today we want to focus our whole ward council on this family. And the member of the bishopric that we'd taken with us stood up and told them the experience that he had with this sweet, amazing family, and just his personal feeling of the need that they had to receive the gospel, and for the ward to just reach out to them. And the ward did. It was such an amazing experience. It was such a blessing. And I actually found out a couple weeks ago that the 12-year-old boy that was his son got baptized, which was just amazing. Maybe it didn't happen while I was there, but because of the members, it happened. Members are able to have a more intimate relationship with the people that you're teaching, and a more human relationship, because, I mean, you can't go hang out with them and play soccer all the time, and you can't call them in the middle of the night, and you can't have them call you at 2 a.m. just because something's wrong, whereas members are a lot more available to do that. I had an investigator who had a problem with some drugs, and after teaching him over and over and over, what we realized was, he knows this stuff. What he needs is somebody who's going to wake up in the morning and go over to his house and be like, hey, let's go running. Or somebody who will go to youth activities with him. Not youth, but young single adult activities with them, and stuff that missionaries can't generally do because we're consumed in doing missionary work. So if you get the members involved, you're set. Let them know that you need them and that they mean so much to you. Don't abuse the members, because then they'll lose trust in you. Another thing that will make you successful is just working hard. If you work hard, you'll do well. If you're obedient, the Lord will bless you. And don't focus so much on doing it for the numbers. Focus on the people. Again, balance. Don't use I'm doing it for the people, not the numbers, as an excuse to not work as hard and achieve what you could. But just make sure that, for example, you're not just baptizing people to get baptisms. Make sure that every single person that you're baptizing is prepared and will stay active, because there's no point in baptizing somebody who's going to go less active 2 weeks later. If you work hard and your heart's in the right place, then you'll do well. You'll have trials, obviously. You'll have challenges, but you'll do well overall if you involve the members and you do things the Lord's way. If you follow Preach My Gospel and the White Handbook.